Good evening and welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. With your lords breaking through to a new all-time high last week, where to from here? Stay tuned as we'll discuss our thoughts on that shortly. We'll also take a look at the All Ordinaries Index, and for our main topic in the show, we get into Bitcoin versus ASX small cap stocks. Will cryptos outperform stocks in 2025? First up, we'll share our hot stock tip for the week, so sit back and relax. Again, tonight is jam-packed as we have lots of emails to answer. We'll also take your phone calls and give you the answers to some of the most important questions around the market. Tonight we're excited to share our thoughts on some great stocks like Magellan Financial, De Grey Mining, New Hope Corp, the All Ords Index, and more. So get comfortable as we'll get in those soon. I'm Philip Tortevsky, your host for tonight, and joining me are two of Wealth Within's highly experienced analysts and professional traders, Janine Cox and Pedro Banales. And together we're Australia's most trusted stock market educators. Good evening, everybody. How are we?
Great.
Good evening.
It feels like it's been so long since I've been in the studio. I was so excited to be here. Every time we walk in here, I just look around and think, look at all of this. Where are we? We're in the middle of the city now.
Yeah, well, you can get tricked with the beautiful background, but I mean, huge news on the market this week. Obviously, the big bombshell by, I know you don't like saying it, but POTUS Trump, the President of America. How the world took that quite interestingly. Markets were very volatile.
Only to come back today.
Do we expect more?
I think so. I mean, I think this is just the beginning, so just hold on to your seats. I think that's what we're in for.
All right, fantastic. Well, tonight, as mentioned, we get into the Australian stock market, but first let's take a look at this week's hot stock tip. Pedro, what have you got for us tonight, mate?
All right, so tonight I've got a very good one, as always. GWA Group, ticker code GWA. So let's get straight into it. So on your screen right now is Market Index, GWA Group there. It's a stock in the industrial sector. So they're a provider of building materials, basically. And what I like here is that the fundamentals and the technicals are lining up. Look at this dividend yield, 6%, P ratio of 17, which is great. You know, anything under 20 I'd be looking at. And, you know, it's not a very small stock. It's not a very large stock either. It's 657 million. But already, just with the dividend yield and that PE ratio, I'm starting to like it. And if we go down here, we can see that, you know, it hasn't done much for the week, for the month, and even for the year. It's just up 9%. So, you know, this one could have a little bit more to go. And I think that if we go to the chart, we can really see what I'm talking about. So on your screen now, we've got the monthly chart on the left and weekly chart on the right. And I've drawn the levels here of resistance, first off, up the top at $3.80. Then we've got good support there at $1.70. And then I've got this line here, $2.60, which is a very important level for this stock. And I'm sure our students will know what I'm talking about, that $2.60 level. And that's a level that it's been kind of trailing around. And this is, you know, make or break for this stock. And it looks like it has tried to break above it earlier this last year. And then again tried to break above it. I think it's going to test it again. And if it does break above it with conviction, then it's got a very good upside here. We're talking around that 47% just to that next resistance level there. But on the weekly chart, I'm loving this pattern that's going on here. We've got previous support there at around $2.20, and it's respected that very nicely. It's actually met resistance there in the past. And it's formed this beautiful triangle pattern here, which we know that once it starts to get to the apex, something's going to happen. It's like a coil being coiled up and ready to spring into action. So
you're on fire tonight, aren't you?
I think so, yeah. I'm a little bit excited, as you are. I think that excitement has come onto me. So what I've just quickly outlined here, if we go back to the chart, that possible downside 11%, and then possible upside to that next resistance level 16%. But if it does break above it, which if it does start to move, we could be seeing at least 60% upside.
Yeah, that's such an interesting stock. I mean, when you look at that chart or the way the outlay is right now, are you saying that it can get there on an instance, or are you saying, because I mean there is the very real possibility that stock can still get stuck sideways? So
Yes.
is there a particular spot you're trying to hone in on there to identify, hey, if it gets through here, I'm going to get that upward move, that 26% that you're talking about?
Yeah,
You're going
definitely.
to make him give all the secrets.
You've got to give a little bit more than that, right?
Seriously?
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, definitely. If we go back to the chart, I can explain where we could possibly get in, and that's if it breaks above this upper line here.
Oh, yeah.
If it breaks above that, then I'm pretty happy with taking that, and it could be a good medium to longer term trade. You can see that it does when it does trend up from that February 16 low up to that May 2018. That's 2 years. So it's already done on the upside 1 year, up to that high point there. We could be seeing another year up. It could even, in 1 year, take out those highs.
It's all about reporting season, isn't it? So
That
keep
is.
an eye on that date.
Well, if you're going to play that game, then you could just say that about any stock.
But I mean,
So, yeah.
a great opportunity there for the short, medium and long-term traders. So great stuff, Pedro. But that is it for our weekly hot stock tip. Now, shortly we will get into our topic for the night. But before we do right now, it is your opportunity to get involved in the show and have your questions answered. Remember, we prioritise phone callers. So call now on 03 9290 9988, or you can text your question to the number on your screen. Now, the first caller into the show right now gets a free copy of Dale's book, Accelerate Your Wealth. So pick up your phone and dial 03 9290 9988. Now, while you do that, tonight we will give you our thoughts on the Australian stock market. So let's get into it.
On your screen right now is a chart of the All Ordinaries Index. Now you can see there I've got a blank chart. Now that'll be a first for me, wouldn't it? Normally it's covered in all sorts of lines.
But you don't want to give your secrets either.
No, that's right. But what I'm really interested in at the moment is just to do a bit of a recap and have a look at where we are in relation to where we were at the height of the GFC. So if we go back and have a look, we can see that the market's really taken off and we're about 25% up from that point right now. But that's not taking into account all the ebbs and flows, obviously, of the market as it's unfolded. The real gains, though, more recently only happened once we went through all of this. So it's taken a while for the market to really get going, which part of the reason why I'm still bullish on our market going forward, and I think there's still further upside to come. Now, I actually listened to your market report.
Did you?
Dale was always giving me a hard time about the fact that I didn't listen to his report, but I've actually been listening to Phil and Pedro. So I highly recommend that you do if you haven't listened to their Monday report, because what you're talking about is for the market to get to 9,200 points.
Potentially, yeah.
But you didn't have anything above that, and that's when I really got upset. And I'm saying, are you thinking the market's actually going to top out there and we're not going to see any more, or what is it? What's your next level on the market?
See, here I was thinking you were about to give me a compliment.
I'm not getting the boxing gloves out,
She
right?
set us up nicely.
Safe, okay?
It was almost a compliment, but not. But I think, look, the market, obviously, naturally, the way it is in this uptrend, and I mean, this is your segment, right? But 9,200 is the most recent level that we're looking at right now.
Yeah.
And as long as we're holding this uptrend, I mean, we're going to flow up and down. As you said, reporting season is coming. That can provide some further volatility. But as long as that trend sticks, I think, the average return per year is about 9% on the market, and we're doing about 3 up until now. So we push the 9-10% on for the year, then I think we can reach that 9.6, 9.7 easy. Maybe to 10,000.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, I'll set it. I'll say it, 10,000. There you go.
Hey, don't steal that one. All right, so look, if we go further than that, and I'm just having a play with this little arrow here, so just turn off, you little silly thing. But getting up here to around 11,000 points is actually the stretch target for our market, and I think it can easily do that over the next 12 to 18 months. So I think we've still got plenty of upside to come on the Australian market, so stay tuned for that, won't you?
All right, now
Yep.
just quickly before I let you go, for the market to do that, are you expecting financials to continue to run? Because that's probably going to need
Yes,
to be
I
the
think
case.
they will.
Yeah.
Financials, what I've said before is once the mining stocks take off and there's a bit more certainty around that, then we'll see them all go up together.
Fantastic. All right, well, that is it for our thoughts on the Australian market. Now, before we get into the first email, remember to get your questions answered live on air, you'll need to text or call into the show. You can also send your questions to info@wealthwithin.com.au and we will answer them in next week's show. Now, let's get into our first question. Peter asks, I'm seeing a break of market structure on HVN, but I was hoping for a retest of the breakout region. Now I'm looking for a long-term position and would appreciate your analysis. All right, Janine, we're going to go with you first. Harvey Norman.
A long-term position on Harvey Norman. That's interesting.
Is it?
You've got to quantify what that actually means. Are we talking more than 2 years or are we talking more than 5 years? If you could just please next time give me more criteria around that. But in terms of looking at my view on Harvey Norman, I don't think it's a long-term stock. I think it's a more short to medium-term play because of the volatility of it, and you can make some really good money. You can see some of these runs here in Harvey Norman, only to see it go sideways for a long time. But it can also take off to the downside really quickly. These sell-offs can be really brutal. You can see these ones here in 2017. We've got a sell-off there in 2022. So I'd just be mindful of the fact that it can trend for a while, but it can spend a lot of time going down and sideways, which is what you don't want. But now in the short term, he's absolutely right. I think he's identified a great spot here where the stock has actually gone through it. Although there can be some indecision after a move like this, and especially given that we've got some resistance from prior highs there. Let's just go and have a quick look at what Harvey Norman's doing. And like Pedro said about the stock before, you get this sort of pattern forming. It's pretty classic, isn't it?
Yep.
Where it comes down, finds support, and then breaks out of that resistance. But sometimes we see, and well, oftentimes we see, and I'm going to have another go at that trend arrow again. Don't let it go too crazy on me. But we're seeing this, it can often come back and we do a bit of a test and then we see another rise up. So it could do there we go again. Well, and we could see it do a bit of a test of that $6 down the track.
To that exact point, part of his question was looking for a retest of that breakout pattern. And it's a very interesting question to ask, because when you're looking at these technical unfoldings, he's right. It's very common for stocks to break out and then retest, but sometimes they don't.
Exactly, and so therefore, if you wait for the retest, you could get left behind. So it's really a toss-up, isn't it? As a trader, you've got to think, well, what are my rules? Do your back testing, work out what the best strategy is, and then just decide, okay, I've set a stop loss, I'm in it. Or I'm going to wait for the pullback, and then you might miss out on it. So there's, that's something to weigh up, like Phil said.
And perhaps even identifying your risk reward on both scenarios makes it easier for you to make that decision on which way to go with that one. But great idea on your analysis. Anyway, our next email is from Dale. Could you please give me your thoughts on ALX? It could be headed, or where ALX could be headed, and it should be, or if it should also be on my watch list. That was a tongue twister. Thanks for the show. Absolutely love it. All right, Pedro. ALX, should it be on his watch list? Then get out your crystal ball, mate. Where's it going?
Oh, well, actually, you don't need a very smart crystal ball for this one. I would say it's heading down. You've got this long downtrend at the moment. And if you see a stock that is in these longer term downtrends, then just assume that it's going to continue that longer term downtrend, because really the trend is your friend, as they say. And until we see a clear break of this downtrend here, I don't see any reason why to be entering this stock. And now he's rightly said.
Well, he's right in that he's saying that we've just seen a
list.
break, right? So it's happening now.
Yes, but there's not much conviction, unfortunately. I mean, it's one close and it's actually trending down as well. If we go to the weekly chart, we can actually see that it has had a little bit of a break above, but we've seen that time and time before along this downtrend. So, you have to just assume that it's going to continue down. If I can just get that right, you can just assume that it is going down until it starts to break above certain levels. We've got this. Are you playing with the mouse?
Just take the
All right,
lock
well,
off.
let me ask you this. Given it has broken
That'll
out
help.
now from this trend line that you've marked,
Yes.
Let's say hypothetically the stock from today, rather than falling away, because we are seeing sellers in the last week or two, rather than falling away, it reverses back up and takes out the $5 level. Do you then start to think, okay, maybe there's an opportunity here, or are you completely saying, nah, not enough for me?
Yeah, right. Well, that would be a different scenario, I guess. If we're seeing that structure, a bit of a retest of that low as well, of the current low. And if we go back to the chart, so if it does start to trend down, and I'll use Janine's famous trend arrow.
So that's really what you're trying to sort of help him with, isn't it? Because it's come back numerous times and then broken new lows.
Yes.
And it could do the same thing again.
Exactly. Exactly right. It could continue down. If it breaks that low, it's all over. But if it does do something like this and then does break above that resistance level there, which is, it's quite a strong resistance level, and above that $5, like Phil said, you could justify a trade, but again, it'll be a high risk trade at that. It depends what risk ratio you have.
If you did your back testing on this and you had a really high back testing result on it, wouldn't that then justify taking the trade?
If you're trading mechanically, yes, you could, but we'd have to put more analysis to see if there's another significant level up there. So there's many ifs in this statement, but it's not a black and white. And like we've marked here before, we do have this strong level back here that it could be coming down to, $3.80. It could actually be coming down to retest that level there. And, it doesn't look like much on the chart, but we're talking another 20% that you could be getting in a little bit later.
Okay. Yeah, and even the way it's unfolding, like you said, 1 month up, maybe even just waiting on that monthly chart for the reversal. That might be the better
I'd be
play.
looking at it in the monthly chart for sure, yeah.
All right, good advice. Anyway, Jimbo is next and writes in asking, keen on your thoughts on IEL. The stock has recently started to rise after a long-term pullback from the all-time high. Based on my back-tested rules, I would have taken a position on opening of Monday, the 3rd of February. However, the falling volume over the past few weeks, combined with a false bottom back in August last year, tells me I need to look for more confirmation. All right, Janine, another one that is looking at potential reversals.
Yeah, the interesting thing with this one is this has actually done what the other one hadn't yet, right?
There you go.
So this is showing an example of what Pedro was talking about. You can see how the prices come back to test that support around the 2020 low, and it's just looking like it's finding its bottom, but this week we're closing low. So therefore, okay, step back. Now, what the temptation is for some people is to say, okay, it's now cheaper, I can buy it lower. But what the market's really telling you is not yet, it's higher risk right now. I can get it at a lower risk time if I wait until it turns and goes back up and trade with the big money, not with the suckers.
Yeah, definitely.
And the volume, any info on the volume, does it matter that the volume is falling? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
Well, usually when you see a stock in a downtrend rising up on falling volume, that's not a very good sign.
You normally see a spike, don't you, around those lows?
If you see a spike and then the price is moving up, that's a good sign. But the fact that it's actually moving down, we could actually start to see a spike in volume as price keeps moving down. So it's great that he's looking at the volume actually to see where the fuel behind the move is.
Now I have to ask this, given the market is down this week, most stocks will probably be down this week. How much importance are you placing on the news? Because this week was an event-driven sell-off with the fact that Trump announced the tariffs, as we mentioned earlier today. Are you, as a trader, are you waiting and thinking, you know what, if I'm in a stock, I'm going to wait for this to play out? Because it's not the norm.
This could last for go on for 2 years on and off. In the meantime, the market just keeps going up.
Yeah. It's just that initial spark, because it might trick some traders out of positions for it to then just reverse and go back to normality.
You'd have to see the sector. So this is an education-based stock. Are they exposed to the US? So maybe if they're not necessarily exposed and it was just an overreaction, definitely that could play into it. But if it was a mining type stock and they are going to get exposed to those tariffs, it could be justified.
Well, it's never too late. He might start imposing tariffs on
education. He's talking about an entry above $13 around this sort of level here. Was it on the open, wasn't it?
On the open.
On the open, but once it had dropped down, and that can be a challenging thing too, because if the stock drops below your entry, if the rules trigger, sometimes it's best just to follow the rules if you're following black and white strategy and buy and just stick to your stop loss. But in other cases, it may just be giving you an opportunity to get a firmer entry. So think about it from that point of view.
Great advice. All right, well, that is it for our take on IEL. Now for our topic for tonight.
What's the best investment right now? Bitcoin or ASX small cap stocks? They both have a reputation for fast returns, but higher reward means higher risk. Or does it? Everyone interested in making money is talking about Bitcoin right now, and it's skyrocketed, rising over 600% since November 2022. If you invested $100,000 at that low, your money would be worth $600,000 today. But can lightning strike twice? Small cap stocks also have explosive growth potential. Take Telix Pharmaceutical, for example, up over 2,700% since 2020. And unlike Bitcoin, the Small Ords Index hasn't even broken above its all-time high from 2007. For context, larger ASX indexes like the top 20, 50, and 100 are well above their pre-GFC highs. With Bitcoin trading more than 50% above its previous all-time high, how much further can it go? And is it worth the risk? Created in 2009, Bitcoin runs on blockchain technology, a decentralized, secure ledger of transactions. People often call it digital gold, and that's because it's increasingly seen as a store of value. Bitcoin has high growth potential and can quickly be bought and sold on various exchanges, making it extremely liquid, and it's traded 24/7 globally. But its dramatic price swings make it volatile. Law changes and exchange hacks can result in irreversible losses, and many trading platforms are not regulated, meaning trades could be blocked during extreme volatility. The FTX saga had major celebrity endorsements that ultimately resulted in a Ponzi scheme.
Bankman-Fried was found to have stolen at least $8 billion from FTX customers. He was also ordered to pay $11 billion today.
However, if you're aware of the boom and bust cycle, there is money to be made. Right now, Bitcoin is in the media attention and enthusiasm phase when hype and risk collide. And you can see what happens next. The Small Ords Index is still playing catch up, so is now the time to invest in this untapped potential. With less analyst coverage, there's a chance to find undervalued gems in this area with huge growth potential. Some small caps also provide high yield dividend returns and are all regulated. Global small caps are currently the most undervalued they have been for over 20 years, compared to their large cap counterparts. Historically, this disparity has seen small caps run up over the next 12 months, especially when you add the possibility of access to cheaper credit if we see a rate cut, which we have seen recently in the US. If Australia follows, you can expect the small cap sector to have all the elements in play for a strong move up. But what are the risks? Lower trading volumes, higher volatility, and potential manipulation by larger investors. But unlike Bitcoin and crypto ETFs, you're buying into actual companies with tangible assets, profits, and growth plans. Plus, you have the security from a regulated market. Trading small caps or crypto isn't for the faint-hearted, but the rewards can be substantial.
Where Bitcoin is at right now. Now, Janine, obviously we saw that boom and bust cycle, and it couldn't have painted Bitcoin in a more perfect scenario. You've got
This week,
media phase that it is in.
Yep.
Obviously, with the good and the bad, you've had Jerome Powell come out recently saying that there is no risk to Bitcoin, especially with regard to the banks out there. So that is a big positive for Bitcoin.
Yep.
Trump coming out saying there's potentially, regulation coming soon for that, and so. Are we in that phase for Bitcoin? Because we saw if we're in that media enthusiasm phase, we're not far off the top, if you will. Or are we not there and ready for a new boom?
Well, obviously we're not around that early adopters phase because that's been long gone. We're well and truly in a mature trend now for Bitcoin. And the Bitcoin Australian dollar one has cracked the $100 mark. So that's an important milestone, I think, for it. Because often there's that psychological resistance level that can happen around those sort of numbers. But I do think Bitcoin will go on. I think there's further upside to come in Bitcoin, and there's a lot of negative talk at the moment about risks around Bitcoin. But I think once something gets to that mature phase, there can still be good upsides. The pullbacks would typically be shorter when that happens, and then you still get the upside. So it actually becomes better to trade But I wouldn't be looking at this point for a long-term play in Bitcoin, knowing where we are in the overall market cycle as well, because it will come back like everything else when the market pulls back.
And obviously the added risk along with that. But what you mentioned there was very interesting, the fact that Bitcoin is trading 50% above its all-time high. Then you've also got some of the big, the major indexes, top 50, top 20,
Prior
top 100.
all-time high, you mean? Yeah.
Prior all-time high, sorry. The major indexes, they're trading above their prior all-time high, at current all-time highs, some of them, most of them. But then you've got the small ordinaries index, and as we saw, the valuations the cheapest in 20 years, still not trading above the all-time high. When you're looking for opportunity and weighing that up, I mean, are you seeing a lot more opportunity in that small cap space over the next 2-3 years, or is it Bitcoin?
Well, opportunities and less risk as well, because usually markets, they crash at the top, not at the bottom. And if Bitcoin is in that enthusiasm stage, which we all agree that it is.
You mean more volatile markets like a Bitcoin is going to crash, like we saw on the chart here when it corrected previously, these big falls. You're talking about these sort of things will happen again. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what could potentially happen. And we're heading up to those levels now, those same types of moves. Whereas with the small caps, if we're looking at them from the other side where they're below their all-time high, well, they've got more upside plus less risk. Okay, you might be leaving a bit of a percentage on the table, but what would you rather have? bananas or actual money,
Well, I mean,
where does your mind go?
Yeah, I mean, let's not get into that conversation here. We don't want to get our comment section blowing up. Basically, the other interesting point there is the fact that we are potentially moving into this easing cycle with America lowering rates. Lower rate environment, easier to get credit, benefits the small cap players a lot more. Is that another thing you're watching? If we continue to drop rates and fall further, that's that springboard that's going to take the small caps higher.
Oh, for sure.
Faster.
Yep, lending costs. I mean, these smaller type companies rely heavily on funding and that lower alternative markets. So, they're also paying out dividends. So you're buying an actual company.
Look, we might see a lot of them go back to the market for more money, and that would be a sign. Also, at this point in the market is when we see these smaller cap stocks really take off, because it's all about risk on and risk off. When the market is, pensive and there's concerns about it, the money goes into the bigger stocks, more liquid stocks, and then once everybody lets go and it's just that euphoric phase, that's when those smaller stocks really take off.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into the stocks, Bitcoin or small caps for 2025? What's performing better?
Small caps.
Pedro?
Oh, small caps all the way. No bananas for me.
All right. Well, everyone in the comments section, you can know what Pedro thinks about Bitcoin. But anyway, let's get to the stocks, guys. What have you got for us?
All right. Well, we should take a look at the chart of Bitcoin. Give it its due diligence. So on your screen right now, we've got the monthly chart on the left, weekly chart on the right, and you can see this exuberance, this rate of rise here that we've got. And if we put a trend line around here, we can see that the rate of rise, we've got how many degrees there? We've got 72 degrees on that rate of rise, which is a lot like this previous one here. From that low there, from that low back in 2020. It rose around that same type of gradient, only for it to just fall off the edge. And if it is at that final stage of that exuberance, then you could expect it to at least maybe reach that 120, possibly 140, 150 if it gets overstretched. But you'd want to be taking some money off the table.
So definitely, still a lot of opportunity to get to 120, 140.
Still good for short term anyway, short to medium.
Fantastic. All right, next one.
All right, so next, if you're not comfortable trading Bitcoin itself or any cryptocurrency as such, you don't want to actually hold it in a wallet and all of that, you can trade ETFs. So on your screen now is the crypto, what was it? Was it beta?
Beta shares.
Better, not better.
Not better? Okay, beta.
Is it better?
Better or beta? Janine and I had a bit of an argument as to whether it's beta, better, Rottweiler.
I won, just for the record.
Janine won, she's right. So basically this is an ETF that's listed on the ASX.
It looks good, doesn't it?
It does look okay, because this factors in not only Bitcoin but all other types of all other types of crypto. So you could probably take a little bit of a risk off by investing in something like this. However, ETFs were already seeing that could be a catalyst as well. If you try to get your money out, it's a little bit
could
difficult.
this double? That's really what we want to know. Let's just get to the crux of it. So if it doubles, then we're interested, aren't we?
If it doubles, I mean, yeah, as a bit of a medium to short term trade, you could see this rise up back to test that all-time high. So 70%, it's not nothing to scoff at. It's pretty good. And actually this this pattern that we can see here, it's actually looking very interesting, and it could actually break above these peaks over here. And if it does break above that, then we might be moving on to new highs. And this could be the safer play for people if...
I'd actually be looking at, even if I was looking at Bitcoin, I'd be looking at this as well, just as an indicator of whether cryptos are likely to take off, because it could be, I don't know what percentage Bitcoin is, I haven't looked at the fact sheet, but it'd be good to go and have a look at the fact sheet if you are interested. And just see what weighting, say, Bitcoin has in it and what weighting some of the other cryptos have. But it could be a good way to keep an eye on whether, if Bitcoin's going to take off. Because, I mean, if this takes off, then it will indicate that Bitcoin's probably going up as well. It is consolidating, but it's not as pretty, is it, as the consolidation that we're seeing on this
They
crypto.
look quite different. That's the interesting thing. And we haven't looked into whether this ETF actually holds any cryptos themselves, or whether they're just trying to track it. And I believe that they're just trying to track the underlying...
do your research.
Yes, do your research definitely before investing in any ETF, let alone a crypto ETF, right?
Yeah, it's quite nice that it's actually volatile. I mean, you see so many ETFs that lag in the volatility section of the investment compared to stocks, but this one's 70% upside is very nice for an ETF.
Yeah.
All right, next one.
All right, the next one we've got is DEG, De Grey Mining. It's an interesting stock, and it's gapped significantly.
Now, I looked up why it's gapped, and I wanted you to guess why.
Good to see you put your little research on.
I put my little research, I put a little line in there as well, but I wanted you to guess. What do you think?
When there's a gap, look, first of all, when I looked at that, I would have said, is that an error on the chart? Right? And the second thing would have been a takeover. That would have been my second thing.
Too good. Spot on. So they've been taken over by Northern Star Resources. So this is what makes this stock actually interesting. Being taken over by a large corporation like that, no wonder it's taken off above those levels.
We did say when we did our gold show that would happen, that a lot of these smaller gold miners would get taken up.
Yeah.
Because they just need the projects, don't they, really, to be able to continue to grow. So would you like me to continue on with the next one? Or
I
talk
sure
about this?
would. Oh, I mean, up to you.
Do you want to talk about where this is going?
Yeah, definitely. I think we should, let's expand and see the bigger picture, because there is a bigger picture at play here. Look at that. So it's consolidated.
That makes the picture different.
It does, doesn't it?
Boring there, but just change the whole
by all means.
theme of it.
So these are small caps that we've chosen that could potentially beat what Bitcoin is doing.
But if there's a takeover and there's no competitor out there, would you still look at this, or would you just let it go?
Well, the fact that it has been taken over by Northern Star, one of the stocks.
Have they actually signed?
They have signed.
Oh,
it's done.
So why did you put it in the workbook?
Well, because they're still trading, I think, right?
No, seriously, like, this is a really good discussion to have. So if someone sees a stock being taken over and they don't know what the state of play is, that's, in my book, a bit high risk in a sense. I mean, you're going to get the money if you bought it now. If, say, for example, it was still trading on the market and you bought it, then you're going to get whatever the takeover price is. But sometimes these stocks shoot up past the takeover price only to drop back later.
Only to drop, yes.
And the reverse of that happens. Sometimes they don't actually get to the takeover price. So do you wait, if you've bought it, do you wait until that period elapses and then just get the money that's paid out to you in cash?
But that's if they're at the negotiation
stage, might even
right?
be offering stock. You don't know. You need to look at the details, don't you?
But I do believe that the deal has passed.
Yeah, so if I was analysing that as an analyst, I think I'd pull out the tissues right now.
All right.
All right.
On that note, I think it's time to go to the next stock.
Next stock, yeah, okay. So Janine did not like that one at all.
Well, it's only because there was so much upside potential and now it's been removed from the market. So looking at Viva Energy, we can see there the nice little pullback that we've had on Viva Energy all the way down here to $2.50 or thereabouts. So 35% fall, and often it's really good to look for these sort of stocks that have pulled back. The fact that it's trended so nicely, then pulled back to a really nice level, yeah, I'd be keeping this one on the watch list for sure. It could it's come back down to test this level again. I think if it breaks through it and continues to fall, then I'd just be putting a trend line on it, or just, waiting. It could come back to further down to this level in January 2022 if it does keep falling. But otherwise, it looks interesting.
It does, and especially if the energy sector does good this year, which we are expecting it to, with all the innovations and things that are happening, and because it's been lagging for quite a while now. So being one of the smaller cap stocks, this one could actually move quite fast and quite hard. That's the bigger picture there. If you were to somehow pick it up around these areas, upside, we've got 50%.
But what about the level down below that? Because there is a bit of resistance there. We need to flag that, don't we?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, some short-term turbulence, as they would say on a flight.
Around 30%.
It's just a little bit of turbulence there. I think that it could actually get past that. If it's, you can see that it does trend quite nicely, like you said.
Yeah,
but when you look at this one, what's real interesting, because we show stocks that look good and perhaps they might not be ready, or they might be ready in a few weeks. They need a few things to do. This one looks like it's at a hugely important level 250, and it's just about to test. So when you see, a stock about to do a thing that could really turn the tide. I mean, is this, I don't know if you mentioned before, but is this one you're watching week on week right now for an opportunity, or is it one that you need more time to unfold?
That's a really good question.
It is. I'd probably be watching this one closely. So you could have a watch list, and you could actually color, like we have different colors up here. And you could say, okay, not yet. You're watching it, not yet. You're watching it because it might present an opportunity soon. And I'd probably put that in that basket. Put this one in that basket, that it could actually present an opportunity quite soon.
Yep,
okay.
Fantastic. All right, next one.
Well, if it takes out that low, we just say bye-bye, don't we?
Then put it in the other basket.
All right. Now, New Hope Corp. I like this. I think it looks really interesting, provided it stays above this low here in November 2024, which it came back to test. But if it takes off above these highs around 510, or even above the prior one, which is 530 or so, that's got potential. But it's just in a sideways move at the moment, locked in that range, which stocks often do. Looking at it in a big picture sense, just love how it's actually come back to test that high in March 2019. It's done it a couple of times. Sometimes they can test 3 times. It may need to do it one more, but we'll just be patient. We've had 1 month down in November, a month up in December, another month down. So it's not giving us a clear sign of, that continual move that we want to see. So it's just about being patient.
And if it does break out of that sideways pattern, what are you thinking? Do you think it might actually come back to retest that high?
Yeah, I mean, I just go back a bit further as well and just have a look across here. So we've got this high in 2011. To me, that's sort of a realistic potential for it to get to. If we're looking at percentage upside from above, say, just to be conservative above there, it's probably around 15% to that level, and then, to the level up here, it's 40. So that's sort of the potential. The risk is that it comes up here and then turns back down again. But then if that's the case and you're trading medium term, your risk is relatively low. It's just about upside from there. So look, I think that looks interesting. As I said, you'd have a stop loss somewhere under here.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Agreed.
All right, next one.
Next one, Insignia. So this one is one that I had a look at a while ago, and I kind of just chucked it in the back of the watch list, only to see it again a few months later, and it's taken off. So
it's another one of mine.
This used to be IOOF or something, didn't it?
Yes.
I'm not sure, but I remember it being maybe on the Hot Copper Show or Hot Stock Tip a few weeks ago.
Right.
Are you
Well,
just
I hope
blowing
that
your own trumpet?
some props here because no one else does.
Well, I hope people picked it up, because they would have done quite well.
No, that's it. Look, it looks interesting, doesn't it?
Really?
Yeah.
I have to give you that one.
Thanks.
All right, so do you want me to discuss it? You seem pretty keen, Pedro. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm pretty keen on this one, actually, because I like that it's gone past all these highs here. So that that high of $3.60, $3.70, even this level here, which acted as a strong level of support, which we know then turns into resistance, it's actually broken above it, and now it's coming back to retest it. And I've just put this percentage there just to highlight that even though it has done 118% from that low there, it can do another 155. Now, I know that there's levels in between, but I'm just looking at the bigger picture here and trying to contrast
Actually,
those
in
levels.
talking to someone recently, they said, oh, the penny dropped for me once I signed up and started studying with you, because I was looking at levels and thinking, oh, is that all I have to do? Just draw a horizontal line across wherever I see these lows there. But one of these, a stock like this is can be so volatile, so you can't just draw a line and think, okay, it's going to stop there because that's a support level, say, which you're just giving a guide as a potential resistance. But there's a whole lot more that goes into it than that to firm up these levels. So your level there, I mean, you're not saying that that exact level is the most important point, are you? It could be somewhere slightly higher as another point, or it could be somewhere slightly lower based on whatever you find, in totality on that stock.
100%. We need to keep it high level for the show, but, there's basically those, just a rough level.
Yep.
Fantastic. Next.
All right, the next one we've got is a Magellan Financial Group, and you can see this looks pretty exciting, Pedro. I see that you've put this this one to the high.
We have to compete against Bitcoin, so we can't be giving 30%ers. We need to show that you can actually.
Okay. So I mean, if it gets going again, I mean, there's a potential across here. 133%, which is nice. It sort of lines up there. But as we said just before in the conversation, the level could be above that. It may just be slightly below that. So don't shoot us in the foot if it goes over 100 and then stops and turns.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think anyone will be complaining then, will they?
Definitely.
But right now, is this the right time? And that's the question, to be buying this stock, because it's just fallen this week. We've seen this strong reversal, which means obviously the buyers have actually given way to the sellers taking control. We could come back and test this low here. I'd be wanting to see this turnaround first. This has got a lot to do yet again to prove it, but it could get going over the next few months and then do the opposite.
Yep.
Make or break time, it seems like, for that. But next one.
Next one, we have SSR. So this one's a bit of a specky, but I mean, it is in the small caps, so it's not too far out. And when we talk about small caps, we should say it's the stocks between above 100 and below 300.
Right.
So
Small Ordinaries Index.
Small Ordinaries Index. So all of these stocks that we're showing right now are above the 100, but below the 300. So it's not like they're micro caps.
Yep. Good point.
So back to the chart, we can see that it's looking in a pretty nice uptrend, isn't it, on the weekly anyway?
I mean, you'd be happy if this thing just got to somewhere around $18 or $20, wouldn't you? Which is a nice return in itself. But what you're saying is it's got potential to go back to the all-time high.
Yes.
And it's trending up nicely. There's a little bit of a gap there on the weekly chart. I can see. What do we make of that? Could it come back and test it? I think for stocks like these, reporting season is everything.
Yep.
And so it's a matter of just waiting and seeing. I wouldn't be buying something like this if it was due to report in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point, definitely, because it can do huge moves. You can see that gap up. That would have been on a good report or something of that manner. And I'm not sure why it's not showing the volume there. I don't think
maybe
that's
they've already
correct.
reported. You could be absolutely right. And if that was the case, if they had reported already and it's moving up, then that's fine as well. But I'd also go and check back to see what this is all about. What happened in February 2024? Was that when they reported last? And that's what you're really saying, Pedro, is just to watch out for these moves, because I mean it fell 49%.
That's right. So if it's about to report, like you said, it could definitely do that again. But for the moment, the price action is telling us that it's on the way up.
But what you're really trying to say here with these small caps is that a lot of them have got a fair way to their all-time highs, and during a big run, we tend to see a lot of these smaller stocks recover and people start to speculate on them and they go through their all-time highs.
Yeah, because if they're willing to pay that price, back in 2022, they may be willing to pay in the future.
Okay, great
All
point.
right, fantastic. We got another one?
We do. I believe we've got a couple more up our sleeves. So this one is Perseus Mining, and we always have a hard time saying that, isn't it?
Perseus?
Perseus, or you guys don't then. Only me. But this one actually, it does look like it's on the way to the all-time high, and it's trending quite nicely.
Okay, so we've got just quickly a rise to the all-time high would be roughly, it's nice, it's about 40% to the all-time high. And could it go much beyond that? Well, it's possible. We'd have to look at some additional levels on that, but it could just as easily go to somewhere around $5 when it breaks through. So
Yep, definitely.
that looks interesting too, Pedro. Sandfire Resources is a stock that I think looks great. It's got the right sort of volatility for short-term trading, hasn't it? Short, even to medium term. It's recently broken through an all-time high, which is interesting. Come back to test it. So when we see the next move up out of that, it just could take off, couldn't it?
Yep.
So that's one to keep an eye on.
I like
What's
that
it
one.
showing on the weekly? A bit of a consolidation, which is good to see. If it takes off through the downside after having such a strong rise and then pulling back, that's a bit odd. After seeing that strong move and there's no commitment to it.
It does look like a very repeatable pattern though. It looks very similar to
but
the one before.
this one's different to the other stocks in that they had potential to get to their all-time highs. This one's actually through it already.
Yes.
So therefore, you know, is this more like Bitcoin's through its all-time high? I'm not trying to measure the type of stock, just the fact that it has gone through that high. So what would you want to see for this stock to, you know, confirm that it's likely to keep going up?
Oh, you could use multiple levels, but you know, you could actually just use this high if you're a bit of a shorter term trader, that high of $10.30. I'd be happy with that if you for a short term trade.
And just set a tight stop loss.
And just set a tight stop loss under that low there on the
or even,
$9.
what about this one here? I mean, if it takes off through that high, would you just set it straight underneath?
You could. Just don't keep it too tight.
Okay.
All right, great advice. Thanks for that, team. Now stay with us as we'll be right back after this short break. This week on Talking Wealth, Pedro and I discuss, is the RBA about to cause a market shake-up? Right now, there's nothing pointing to this market falling away apart from interest rate decisions. If they're favourable, I can't see this sector falling away.
Think hiring an operator in your business is a cost? Learn how a fractional operator can boost your bottom line with Lloyd Thompson.
So this is about how the sales folks and the marketing folks and the account management folks work together with your CRM, your customer database, a place where all your leads are, in an optimized manner, the people, the processes, the tools and the data, to make sure there's not any money being left on the table.
Want to build a legacy? Join Sol Cohen and discover the keys to financial freedom.
Most people fall because they don't take the action. Lots of people will go out and get the knowledge, but only a fraction of the people who go out and obtain the knowledge will act on it. That's the difference between those who are able to generate wealth and those who aren't.
Get your free 7-day trial now to watch this and more.
Only on Talking Wealth. That amazing content you just saw is going live this Thursday on Talking Wealth. Now moving on, if you want to talk about a stock or ask a question, pick up your phone right now and give us a call on 03 9290 9988. That's 03 9290 9988. Or you can simply text the number on your screen. Now, whilst we wait for your call, let's get into our next email. Julian writes in wondering if you'd be able to take a look at RWC. I entered last Monday at $5.32 on the weekly chart, and I think it has a good short to medium term upside. I previously made a similar trade in July 2024 using similar rules, and I think the next major resistance level is $6.20 with support at $5. All right, Pedro, a lot of technical levels on this chart.
There is, yeah.
How are we looking?
Now, we're not sure, we did put the level that he mentioned back in June, but we're not sure if he was profitable or not. So we don't know exactly where he got in. This was around June or July 2024.
Well, he would be profitable now.
It would be profitable. Yeah. I'm not sure if he got out around the high.
Didn't tell us about the exit though.
Or the exit, or if he's still in it. However, let's suppose that he did manage to exit and he's taken a profitable trade. Now he's looking to get back in. He's entered already. Now, I agree that there's strong support around that $5 mark. And how much percentage do we have down to that level? We've got around that 6%.
Only a small risk.
So yeah, very small risk. You know, you could even put a bit of a longer stop loss if you wanted to, but you do have a nice trend here that you could use as to support you in that trade. So right now it's still in an uptrend. It's still looking nice. It does look like it has some cyclical nature to it because I can see that these rises tend to be uniform. However, the fact that already 3 times it failed to get above that level of around that $6.20 is a little bit of a red flag for me.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a short-term trade, maybe up to that resistance level of 620, that could be okay, but that's where the risk starts to get a little bit more full on. And if you've got that 16% already behind your trade in profit, maybe it's not so bad to take that risk, but get ready for some heavy resistance around that 620.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that, what's quite interesting, he's got 2 very different entries there. One is picked up literally off the bottom, which, there's question marks if you want to raise that. But then the second one is picked up on a pullback once the stock's been rising quite comfortably. Do you have any issues with that second entry? I mean, is that a spot that a good entry to take, or is there more confirmation needed?
It's still a bottom though.
Yeah, I don't see an entry rule there.
It looks like he's entering on a reversal bar. So each time there's been this reversal signal that's happened with that outside bar. Same here, we've had this reversal signal, but that means there's actually no confirmation that the low's in. The confirmation comes later, and so what? That okay, it did keep going up, but the only way to really know whether that's legitimate or not is to prove that it happened every time, or almost 7 or 8 out of 10 times it's gone to one of these lows, and you could identify it, that it does reverse, then that's probably justification for someone trading really short term to do it. But if it's just happened once and he took that trade and he thought, oh, here we go, it's reversed again, and I'm going to take the trade again, to me that's just, you want to be a bit careful of that. So
what's interesting,
I hope it works out for him though.
Yeah, I hope so too. And it actually looks interesting, the fact that it came off from that bottom and then gapped down only to fill that gap again. He may be thinking that it's going to do the same. So it seems to be repeating what it did back here. If it holds above this $5 level and then comes back up, it could actually come back and fill that gap at least.
You've got to double up then, don't you?
I wouldn't be doubling up on that for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think you would either.
Well, I think what the team's saying, mate, is potentially a little more confirmation on those entries is what they're looking for. But anyway, thank you very much for your email. Next, we've got King, who writes in, could you please have a look at INA? I think it looks promising as it's now broken through the $5.50 level. Thinking of a medium to longer term trade towards the September 2021 high. The tailwind of potential interest rate cuts should benefit this one. All right, Janine, King.
First of all, interest rate cuts. I mean, you talked about interest rate cuts recently.
Yes.
And you've got your views on that as well.
Yes.
But there's no definite interest rate cut yet. It's a possibility. I guess the market's working on perception that there will be one because of the banks. I mean, the banks are saying that there will be one, and they've dropped their deposit rates, which is interesting, by saying that there will be one and there may not be one. So it might not be until the middle of the year. So I wouldn't actually count that that's what's going to drive this higher at all. I just think it's sort of a bit more seasonality as well that's affecting it. I think if we look through here, we've got these peaks that you can see, and it's broken through that, like he said, and I think, yes, that's a plus. Good that you've identified that resistance has been broken, because that's really critical, isn't it, to whether the stock can keep going up. But I would actually go and have a look at this weekly chart a little bit more closely and say 1, 2, 3, it's gone up 3 weeks in a row. Where else has it ever done it like that? That's the first thing, and maybe it's never done this before. So it could mean that the stock's going to actually come back and test it, and that's where often you think you're on a trend and then it's not. But I'd stay with it even if it pulled back, and just make sure that you use the next trough as a stop loss, or find a percentage stop loss. If it turns around and then goes back up again, you could be heading towards that 27% that's been identified. But at this stage, to me, I'd be looking. I wouldn't get into it unless there's a pullback. That would be my view right now.
Yeah. And on that interest rate thing, I mean, it's had a good time of it since 2022. That's been in a rising rate environment. So I'm with you. I wouldn't hold too much weight on it. There's
too much distance at the moment, really, is the issue from, let's just say it closed above that resistance there. There's a 21% drop to the last low underneath it.
Plus volume isn't supporting that up move. That really concerns me. We've got this very long outside bar there. And yes, we've had a bit of a bigger volume there.
That's not too bad though.
It's not too bad. Yeah, when you zoom in, it's not too bad. But I would have expected to see something like this.
For the size of the bar.
For the size of the bar, exactly. And then really price breaking above that, but not much.
Maybe there was just good participation at the time when they
Could be.
placed the trades, but it could be doing that now. It could be pulling back at the moment.
And I mean, it's even important to argue, I'll just quickly say, to trade what is. I mean, we've not seen, as you said, that kind of bullishness on this stock in history, so that means something, more so than...
Maybe it's more positive than what we're giving it credit for.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to get at, because it is showing some real bullishness there. But anyway, great email, thank you. Next up is Stephen, who writes in regarding RSG. I purchased the stock on the 11th of June at 53 cents and had a 15% trailing stop loss on it. However, it fell through my stop loss, in which I continued to hold because it was still in line with a longer momentum. However, the next week it took a dive on news, and my other observation is RSG is still struggling whilst gold is making new highs. So if gold weakens, then it may reverse further. All right, now, Janine, I'm going to go to you on this one, and I want to unpack the first part of this question, because we've had discussions on this on previous shows about having a stop loss in place.
Yep.
And then as the trade's unfolding, changing, playing with the strategy, not taking the stop loss, thinking, oh, you know what, it's dipped down a little bit, I'll give it a little more room to move.
Yep.
Sometimes it reverses in your favour and you beat yourself on the chest saying, oh, look how good I am.
Yes, and that
more
does
often
happen,
than not, yeah, it does. But more often than not, this scenario happens.
Especially with the smaller stocks.
Yes, continues to fall away. Now you're in a much worse scenario than you would have been initially by taking your stop. And he's still asking the question, I'm not selling. I mean, thoughts?
Look, the first thing is the decision. I mean, everybody's at a level that they're at in their trading. So I was talking to someone this week who's just gone to a whole new level in his trading, but he's been through similar experiences to what you're going through. So I would say stick at it. However, there was nothing, looking at the stock, the way it was trending up, it was beautiful. It was, look at the monthly chart, it was so strong. You wouldn't expect it to do this, but that's where you've got to look at these types of stocks. So it's pulling back from the situation and understanding, well, everybody looks at the upside, not what a stock could do when it's actually being sold off, when they're thinking of the dollars. So now that you're in it, it's really about managing the mess, so to speak. You've just got to clean it up a bit and decide, am I going to allow this to go down further? Because it could. So it's about drawing the line in the sand. Okay, I take my hat off to you, because you've actually acknowledged that you made a mistake, and that you're just by coming on into this show. So well done for doing that. But now it's a question of, well, where are you going to set the stop? Are you going to put it under here? How much more are you willing to risk? Are you going to get out now if it closes down this week? How much room have you got? Now, Phil, you made a comment some time ago that if you're trading smaller stocks, sometimes it's better to give stocks a bit more room to move.
Yeah.
And, instead of a 15% stop, you might find that the history tells you need to give it 20. Now, I'm not saying that he needs to do that in this case, but, what's realistic and reasonable for stocks with higher volatility?
Well, you would look at the chart itself. I mean, treat individual stock on its own to gauge that volatility initially. But, I mean, make that decision before you get in on the trade. Don't be making it after and thinking, okay, I was wrong, 15 was too tight. Let me widen it out to 20 or 30
that's exactly right.
and see what happens. That would be a big no-no. But I mean, as Janine said, it's a lesson. And at the end of the day, whether your experience is new, advanced, discipline is the main thing to get out of this, because without discipline, I mean, everything else fails. So stick to your discipline, and if you've made a call on the market, stay with it. It's going to serve you so much on your journey as a trader. But anyway, thank you for your email. Our next one comes from Stuart. Interested to hear your thoughts on OCC for the mid to long term. I don't own the stock, but it looks to have moved up significantly over the past few months, breaking a long-term down to sideways move. All right, Pedro, OCC sounds like another small cap.
Look, this would be right up my alley, but probably about a year ago, I would have loved to have picked this up.
Yep.
I think now, now it's probably run a little bit hard. Medium to long term, I would be switching that up and just thinking maybe, more shorter term, but picking it up right now would be very risky.
Yeah.
It's already run so hard, already 286%, but that's not even it. It's just a gradient of this rise. It's just gone parabolic. And really, how much more can it go?
Now, remember, some stocks have gone 1,000, 2,000%.
Of course, yes.
So, we can't sort of completely dismiss it, can we? Because, we've seen stocks like CSL that went from not nothing, but such a low price to such a high, hundreds. Now, could this be the next?
Not on that gradient though.
But could, but in what scenario might it keep growing is what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Well,
and that's a great question because you're right, it could keep going. But I mean, I also like your point in the fact that if they're completely vertical, statistics and history show that they're going to correct. It doesn't say that they can't go on for that second or third or fourth leg. It's just that initial correction is probably more likely, is what you're saying right now today, rather than continuing.
But you didn't answer my question. So
what was your question?
My question was about where could it go? Because if it might not stop is the question. So what are we looking for right now?
How long are you willing to hold it?
Well, the best answer to that really would be when it's in these levels or at this play itself is all about your trade structure. It's all about your risk reward. How much are you? How are you going?
So what you're saying is you could still take a trade potentially if you get a rule to enter. But it's just about, what's the downside risk? How are you going to set a low? And the challenge right now is it that you're going to have to trade it on a daily time frame? Because look at this weekly chart. There's a big swing down. It's still sideways. We've got no confirmation yet of anything else. I mean, do we wait? Do we only sort of set certain criteria? So it has to actually pull back into a trough. And then if we get that, then we see it go to the upside, then we can potentially take it. I mean, the reason I'm raising this and sort of playing devil's advocate with this is because it's above $1, and so I always talk about once stocks get above $1 that you can then look at these ones. And so then it's like, well, how do you do this if the stock's blown off and it's done this sort of thing? So maybe we need to wait for some sort of consolidation sideways and only take it in that scenario. Maybe we need to do what you were saying, and it's like, okay, if it goes to a new high, then we're just going to set a percentage stop loss and then see how the stock goes.
Time frame and trade structure for me on this one.
Yeah, if it would have trended up to that dollar level, then I would have been much more happy with it. The fact that it's just gone parabolic through it, that for me says it's some type of news or speculation. It's like Phil said, statistically, 9 out of 10 times a vertical move like this is not good news. So I'd just rather trade another stock.
If you're not in it, you mean?
If you're not in it already, exactly, definitely.
Great advice. All right, well, remember to show your support for our channel and smash that like button. If you enjoy watching and want to see loads more of our content, click subscribe now. Subscribing helps others find our channel so we can help them too. Now, before we let you go, what was your favourite part of the show? Was it our hot stock tip, our topic for the night, or was it a viewer question? Let us know by commenting below. And thanks to all those who are watching on YouTube and Facebook. If you're watching on talkingwealth.com, stay tuned for more exciting stock picks, insights and strategies. We'll be right back with all that and more. Next week in our main topic, we get into the best ASX 200 high yield dividend stocks to buy right now. Make sure you join us next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. If you love our show, remember to hit that like button now and subscribe to our channel, as this shows your support for the team that puts in the effort each week into bringing it to you. Now, if you are subscribed, then you'll always know when we go live and put up new content. As always, thanks for joining us. For now, goodbye, good luck, and good trading.